Yes. What is up, everybody? Welcome to the very special, the return of probability. It's been a minute, and yeah, this was me and Wheezy, one of our favorite shows. We took a little bit off. Wheezy did a ton of work, and you'll see it behind the scenes in a second here. But yeah, looking forward to it. Bringing it back for what is on paper the best card in a very, very long time. It's stacked from top to bottom. This main card is incredible. So we wanted to bring back a probability for this card. Wheezy, what is up? Are you looking forward to UFC 299 as much as I am?
Yeah, I definitely am. And this is one of those things where I've been working on this project behind the scenes for a long time now. And even though it's not 100% done and I'm finding little errors, little coding errors here or there in my sheets, it is ready enough for us to take you through some of what I've done here and show you the products that I'm creating. And you guys are already familiar with the prop template, but now I've created, and Brady knows this. I always have my best ideas in the shower, Brady.
Yeah.
You know, I've come up with several great ideas in the shower, template ideas, betting ideas. You know, I even when I was younger, I had an idea for a tanning salon called When a Tan Loves a Woman, right? That's a great name for a tanning salon. Got that idea in the shower. But my idea is why can't you create a template like we have, for instance, when I show the screen here, this is the prop template for the this is the Lynn's Cutelaba fight. So we take the betting lines at minus 155. We convert it into an implied probability. That implied probability, Brady, is the price of the line. Then we take the divisional benchmark and we compare that divisional benchmark to the price of the line. We take fighter A and fighter B's performances as compared to whatever bet that is, and then we convert that into a percentage. We compare it to the price of the line. We compare it to the benchmark for the division. And now we're not just going to be doing that for these over-under betting lines for over 2.5. Fight starts round 3. Fight goes or fight doesn't go. Now we're also going to be doing it for the bets. You know, this is Kevin Holland versus Michael Page. And now we can look at the odds, the implied probability of the odds. We can look at the divisional benchmarks, you know. So now we've got Kevin Holland versus Michael Page here. It's a 170-pound division. So we know now that inside the distance happens 50.33% of the time. Knockouts happen 32% of the time. Submissions happen 17% of the time. But the thing is, what really makes this kind of unique, Brady, is that these things happen for one fighter, right? So just because there's a knockout, one guy gets the knockout and wins and the other guy loses. So we can take the implied probability of the betting lines here and then adjust those benchmarks by the win probability of each fighter. And now we can kind of create a template like the over-under template, but to show us value in the KO prop, in the inside the distance prop, in the submission prop, in the decision prop, and then the unanimous decision and split decision props here. For we're going to take all those betting lines. We're going to convert them all into implied probabilities. We're going to compare them against the benchmarks. We're going to look at fighter A's offensive performance, fighter B's defensive performance, break that down to percentages. And what we can do is we can actually take each fighter's win condition and actually, you know, quantify it. Because there's a lot of people out there, Brady, who will tell you, yeah, I've got so-and-so capped at 60%. What this template does is it actually caps it at a percentage. So we're going to take you through how to use this thing today, and we're going to go through all 14 of these fights and see if we can find some underpriced lines that are worth betting here. And we can take the data, we can compare it to our stylistic reads of the fights, and then we can find some bets that stick out, find ways to stack cash tickets like flapjacks, and share it with the audience here that's watching today, Brady.
Absolutely. I agree with Meatball in the chat. He says it looks clean. I agree. You know, we always talk about it, Weedsy. Like one of the hardest parts in what you do is kind of getting the look right. And I think you pretty much nailed it. I like it a lot. And I think the chat likes it as well.
Yeah, the colors aren't supposed to look like this, but I've got some weird thing now where it's like changing the colors when I import a sheet into another. So, but what's important is that, you know, these line number 15 of this sheet here, that's going to be a comparison line. We're going to be looking for value in that line. Line number 21 is a comparison line. We're going to be looking for value in that line. Line number 27, another comparison line. We're going to be looking for value there. Green means underpriced. Red means overpriced. Yellow means fairly priced. So we're going to take it. We're going to take you through all 14 fights here, and we're going to start. Which one should we start with? Should we start with Wood versus whoever the hell she's fighting, or
Yeah,
should we
can
start
with
Cutelaba Lins?
Oh, we can start with Lins if you want.
Because we don't have much there. Let's see here. Let me.
Yeah, so we have actually Bovada, it looks like, in Bet365. They did get an over-under out for the 2.5 rounds.
For the 2.5 rounds. All right, well, let's get that up on the screen for us then. And what do they have for the under 2.5?
Under 2.5 minus 400.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, and the over 2.5 is what?
Plus 275.
275. And was there still an under 1.5 round? Let me look here.
Yeah, I think it's
game totals. They don't even have anything yet on. It's
Bovada,
so weird.
It's minus 135 for the under 1.5 on Bovada, at least.
Minus 135.
And then plus 105 to the over.
105. Okay. So we are seeing some green here in the overs. All right. 3 of 5 Lins fights have went over 2.5 rounds, but only 4 of 15 for Cutelaba. So when we weight that, Brady, that's 7 of 20. That's a 35% combined over 2.5 rate here. That is underpriced by about 8.33%. The 26% price of the line here is underpriced by 15% when we compare it to the benchmark for the division. So we're definitely getting a discount on the overs here, and we are overpaying a little bit for these unders, and I get it. I mean, when we look at how these guys lose fights, I think we're going to see that both of these guys get finished a lot inside the distance, and we can kind of take a look at it here on the advanced stats where, okay, if we look at the win condition for these fighters, Ion Cutelaba has 9 losses as a professional, and 8 of them are inside the distance, 4 by submission, 4 by KO. And Felipe Lins has 5 losses, 4 of them inside the distance. So, I mean, we're talking 11 of 13 losses inside the distance here. So that is why this is such an overpriced under. However, somebody's got to get a finish here, and both these guys kind of stink. So I mean, which one of these guys wins inside the distance, I guess, is the question. And I'm not sure if it's either of them. And if you tend to agree with that, you're going to find some really nice value in these lines here at plus 275 for the over 2.5. And there's a lot more value in that over 2.5 than there is in the over 1.5. And that's because these guys are very front-loaded, Brady. 50% of their fights end in round 1, but only 65% finish inside the distance. So the win condition is mostly round 1. If you get out of round 1, you got a much higher chance of going the distance here. So that plus 275 at over 2.5 is fantastic. I like that a lot. And we would break down the bets here, but let's shame Bet Online for having no available props whatsoever on this fight. So I guess we just got to go with our analysis of the over-unders here.
Yeah, I mean, we should shame all the books. I mean, all the books were late to even get out like the money lines for this fight. So, yeah, it's one of those fights. I don't know if you agree or disagree. Like, I feel like this fight either ends very quickly or it just gets like really greasy really fast and ends up just going the full 15 minutes. So, yeah, it probably would be over or pass, but you're going to be clenching your butt cheeks for those first 5 minutes, I think.
Yeah, and that's why, I think if you want violence here, you take that fight doesn't start round 2, because you'll get the fattest price for that, and that really is where most of the win condition is. And then if you're on non-violence, you're looking for that fight goes or that over 2.5, because if you get out of that first round, then that probability goes way up that you are going to hit that number. So, but yeah, we don't have all the props for this one, but that's what we got for it. I would say over or bust on the Lins Cutelaba fight.
All right. Let's move on to the next fight then. And Dip saying DraftKings has nothing. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's going on with this fight, but let's move on to a fight where we do have something. We have Joanne Calderwood going against Maryna Moroz. Maryna Moroz is minus 220. Joanne Calderwood is plus 175. And just refreshing the odds here, the over 2.5 minus 300, the under 2.5 plus 240. The fight goes minus 225. The fight doesn't go is plus 200. What I found pretty hilarious is I was looking at the lines earlier, and the fight doesn't go was at plus 215, and Moroz inside the distance was at plus 215. It's like they're not even trying anymore. It's crazy. But Wheezy, is there anything sticking out for this fight here?
It does like violence here because Joanne Wood has been finished quite a bit. And, fight doesn't go to decision at plus 240 is where I had it earlier this week. 7 of 16 Wood fights finish inside the distance. And for Moroz, it's 3 of 11. You add that up, it's 10 of 27, 37%. And we're only paying 29% on the line. It's very close to being a trifecta bet. And a trifecta bet is when this number is positive, this number is positive, and this number is positive, because all three metric comparisons that we make indicate that it's underpriced. So those are the spots that we look to find, where we're finding something underpriced. And then we say to ourselves, okay, who's getting the finish here and how, and is Joanne Wood getting a finish outside of Moroz maybe getting injured? Moroz is known for being very durable. And Moroz more of a submission finisher than anything. She's not knocking people out in the UFC. So, you could get fight doesn't go to decision at plus 240, but I think Moroz by sub is like plus 275. So the bookies are onto it.
Yeah, they are. It's plus 235.
Plus 230.
It's terrible. It's horrible.
Yeah, that is terrible. And like we can even look at it here on this, right? Because we got that plus 235 number. You could see that right here, right? So plus 235 is a 29.85% implied probability. Only 20% of fights actually finish by submission. And when we adjust that number here to 13.65%, that's 19.85% multiplied by 0.6875, which is Maryna Moroz's implied win probability. So we can see that we're overpaying according to the benchmark there. And then here in 17, we got the fighters' win stats. And we can look at Maryna Moroz. 2 of 6 wins come by submission. And for Joanne, it's 5 of 8 losses. So you're like, oh, wow, that is a big part of Maryna Moroz's win condition here. What we do here, Brady, is we add up, like 50% of the win condition here is, inside the distance. And we know that most of that is going to be sub because neither of these ladies have knocked anybody out or been knocked out. So 7 of 14 or 50% of the win condition for Maryna Moroz. And by the way, this area right here is someplace where I found coding errors and it's not doing a correct total. 50% multiplied by 0.6875 gives us a 34% win condition probability there for Maryna Moroz. We're only paying 29.85%. So even at plus 235, it's a fairly or underpriced bet. So Moroz by submission is most of this condition of the fight finishing inside the distance. The decision props are severely overpriced here as we see red here, and red here. And on the Wood side, it's giving us just a little bit of value on the inside the distance props. If you want to take a shot on Joanne Wood inside the distance at plus 1,200, Brady, hope that Maryna Moroz shits her pants out there, or she sprains her ankle jumping around before the fight, pulls a Brian Ortega. That there's actually a little bit of value in that number, but I mean, I'm not running to the window for a Joanne Wood inside the distance ticket. So the sub prop is probably fairly priced here. It shows red, but that's due to a coding error.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think the only way Joanne does finish this fight is like a shit pants finish. But yeah, that sub got smashed, man. Moroz sub opened up plus 400. It's now plus 235. A lot of people are picking Moroz by sub. I think it's a fairly obvious outcome, and that's why we're not getting the best line. So I'm going to wait for like FanDuel, Bet Rivers, etc. Maybe we'll get a better line on the sub because it is something I'm eyeing this week, but plus 235, I think some of these other books could do much better.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's move on to this next fight.
All right. And yeah, Jeff in the chat grabbed Moroz finish only at minus 260. That's a max bet right there. That's crazy. And it got steamed to minus 600. Yeah, you got a great line there, Jeff. All right, let's move on to the next fight. We have a flyweight fight. We got Assu Almabaev going against CJ Vergara. Almabaev, the biggest favorite on the card now, minus 575. CJ Vergara plus 425. The over-under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 plus 110. The under 2.5 minus 140. The fight goes to decision plus 115. The fight doesn't go to decision minus 145. Wheezy, is there anything sticking out in this fight for you?
We don't have a big sample size of fights here for either guy. We got 5 fights for CJ. We've got only 1 for Assu. We do see that CJ Vergara outside the UFC finished inside the distance 7 of 10 times, for Assu 10 of 15. So they're finishing around 70% outside the UFC and at 50% inside of it. They are overpricing these violence props here at Fight Doesn't Go and under 2.5 by 14.5% and 13%, over the benchmark for the division. So they're definitely leaning that somebody gets a finish here. And frankly, I could see CJ Vergara getting a knockout. He's a guy who hits very hard. On Dana White's Contender Series, he one punch slept a dude. So the guy's got legit power. And obviously, on the Almabaev side, you're looking for a takedown, a back take, and a rear naked choke. And that's certainly live as well. But are you counting on it? Are you laying juice at minus 145 for a violence prop in a men's flyweight fight? It has to be quite the striker versus grappler matchup where both guys are extremely dangerous. And frankly, I mean, I don't think this guy Almabaev is as good as the guys that have beaten Vergara inside the distance, guys like Tatsuro Taira. So maybe fight goes at plus 115 isn't the worst look here. It's a very fairly priced bet. But, we can't rely too much on the data because we only got a 6-fight sample size. We've only got 1 fight for Assu Almabaev at the UFC level. So it feels a little bit more like a pass for me. What are you looking at here?
I mean, I was maybe looking at the sub, but holy crap. Almabaev by sub is plus 125, which is expected. I mean, this guy's minus 600, so none of his props are going to be solid. So I'm with you in terms of just staying away here.
Yeah. So 2 of 3 of Almabaev's wins and Vergara's losses are by submission at the UFC level. So 33% times 0.85. Let me just do that real quick here. Times 8,519. It's about it's 28% of the win condition, and we're paying what did you say the sub line was? 120 now or
125?
Jeez, man,
I know it's bad.
And barely getting plus money there. That's
on a sub prop. On a sub prop.
Yeah. On a sub prop too. Yeah. I mean, it's actually kind of fairly priced, but it's a 3-fight sample size of Almabaev wins and Vergara losses. So the data, it's not much of a help here. You could see over here a lot of orange, so these lines are all fairly priced pretty much on the Vergara side, according to the numbers that we have. And I mean, maybe inside the distance at minus 105. But nah, this is a stay away, dude. This is they're onto it. They know Almabaev's best win condition here is the submission, and they're overpricing it. So I think we can stay away.
Yeah, I mean the submission is terribly priced. Even like the decision, I don't like. It's only plus 175. It's a good one to stay away from, I think. All right, we'll move on to the next fight. Then we have Josh Parisian going against Robelis Despaigne. We got Despaigne minus 330. We got Josh Parisian plus 270. We have the over-under set at 1.5 rounds. The under 1.5 minus 285. The over 1.5 rounds is plus 225. The fight goes the distance plus 700. And the fight doesn't go the distance minus 1,400. I'm expecting violence. Wheezy, you're expecting violence. The bookies are expecting violence. Pretty much everybody's expecting violence here. What are you seeing here?
Well, if you were to just look at the prop template, Brady, it would be telling you, oh my God, you have to bet the over here. This guy, Parisian, he's been over 1.5 rounds in 5 of 6 fights, 83% of the time. You're only paying 30%. And this guy, Parisian, he's been in a decision 3 of 6 times, 50% of the time. You're only paying 12.5% on the line. The problem is that his opponent is a 6'7" Cuban dude who's got hands of stone, and he knocks people out with the very first strike that he throws. Whether it lands or not, it seems to knock you out. So the bookies are just basically pricing this as saying this guy Despaigne is going to go out there and knock this dude out. And if he doesn't, then Parisian probably gets on top of him and pounds his head through the canvas. I mean, he finished Bedot on the ground, and Bedot probably actually has a better ground game than Robelis Despaigne. So, yeah, this is one where at plus 700, it would be, I just don't see how it cashes, and you're not, please don't lay minus 1,400. And I don't even think you should parlay minus 285. You're paying 74% at minus 285 on this line. Only 43% of heavyweight fights actually go under 1.5 rounds. And Parisian's only been under 1.5 rounds, 1 of 6 times. He's actually very durable. So, yeah, I mean, this is one where it absolutely should go under, but the amount that you're overpaying for it with a debutante that you really don't know much about, it's a landmine waiting to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to see what the fight won't start round 2 is. They're probably onto it. I want to see what the under 1/2 of a round is, but they're probably all over it. And I also want to see what Despaigne inside 60 seconds is, but again, they're probably already onto it. But yeah, I think the under minus 285, it's chalky, but I think it hits. But I don't know. So yeah, nothing really sticking out. But I'd be pretty surprised if this fight did reach that second round.
Yeah, me too. And I mean, like I say, all of Despaigne, if that guy left round 1, there's no guarantee he would have, hey, we don't have enough power to land one punch that would knock somebody out at this level. So, yeah, this is one where the bookies know what the obvious result is going to be, and they're really not rewarding you for taking that risk. So it seems like a pretty safe pass.
Can I interest you in Josh Parisian, round 2 and round 3?
Yes, you can. And it's something I'm probably going to be playing this week because
Why not? Why not?
Why not? Yeah, I mean, you might be getting 30 to 40 to 1. I mean, it's not like you have to take a lot of risk there to win a lot of units. You could put a quarter unit total, put 0.15 on round 2, put 0.1 on round 3. And if he somehow manages to get out of round 1, that's going to be so live that you're going to be really, really happy if it gets out of round 1. Now, will it? No, probably not. But I think we all know that if this fight does get out of round 1, all bets are off and shit could get very interesting very quickly.
Yeah, I'll have to see what those are. On Bet Online, obviously they're not great. They're 18 to 1 and 20 to 1. So on other books, they might be 30 to 1. And yeah, maybe he does get on top of this guy, and maybe he's the one that does the humping this time around. I know he got humped against Dontel Mays. Maybe he flips the table here.
Yeah, and maybe he even gets a takedown in the first and finishes this dude. Because we have
Maybe.
no idea what Robelis Despaign's ground game looks like at all. But we do know this. You don't have to wrestle in Taekwondo. And that's what this guy was doing at the Olympic level. So if you're in 2012 medaling in the heavyweight division in Taekwondo, chances are you weren't spending time in wrestling class as well.
That's a really good point there. All right, Weezy, we'll move on to the next fight, which looks like it's the Oleksiejczuk fight, right?
Yeah, it should be that one. Yes.
All right, we got Michel Pereira going against Michal Oleksiejczuk. We got Pereira sitting at minus 145. Oleksiejczuk sitting at plus 125. The over-under looks like set at 1.5. The over 1.5 minus 185. The under 1.5 is plus 155. The fight goes the distance, plus 160. The fight doesn't go the distance, minus 200. This is a tricky one for me because you look at Michel Oleksiejczuk, a lot of his fights do finish early. But on the flip side, you got Michel Pereira, which a lot of his fights go the distance. Outside of that Petrosky fight and Danny Roberts, which, I mean, you can't, knocking out Danny Roberts in my book just does not count. So we kind of have like a clash of styles, if you will, here, where Oleksiejczuk is finishing early, Pereira is finishing more so by decision. Weezy, anything sticking out here with these prices?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a 42.86% fight doesn't start round 2 rate here. Only 2 of 9 fights for Pereira finished after round 1, and only 2 of 12 for Oleksiejczuk. So the difference, you look at the benchmarks for the division, for instance, the difference between fight doesn't start round 2 and fight doesn't go to decision is 30%. But here the difference is only 19%. So it shows you that these guys are a little more front loaded than the average middleweight. So at plus 140 for the under 1.5, I think that's a good price, but I think I'd rather get like something like plus 200 for the fight doesn't start round 2 here. But fairly priced under 1.5, maybe a little bit of an overpriced fight doesn't go here. The data kind of likes this fight goes, but what this is telling me is that, yeah, they're shading these prices a little bit towards violence, which makes sense in an Oleksiejczuk fight. And but you have to worry about a guy like Pereira who barely gets finished, and he can be very elusive. He can move laterally a lot. We are in a big cage here. So these violence props, you always have to worry about it on these pay-per-views because of the live crowd, the extra nerves, the not wanting to fuck up on UFC 299 when the whole world is watching. Sometimes people are a little more cautious. So, yeah, there's nothing sticking out in terms of value here for the over-unders. And when we look at the betting template, we see a lot of red. Pereira by sub at plus 600, they're saying makes a little bit of sense because Oleksiejczuk has been subbed in 3 of 4 losses, and Pereira does have 1 win by submission. So that's 4 of 11 or 36% is the win condition there. And when you adjust that for Michel Pereira's win probability, you get to 21%, and the bet is only priced at 14%. So you're getting about 7% there. And, I think Pereira, you could see that the submission is a potential win condition for him here because he might get really sick of getting pressured and decide that he's got to try to take this guy down. And if he does get Oleksiejczuk down, we've seen Oleksiejczuk show pretty bad submission defense in a ground game. So the sub at plus 600 on Bet Online isn't bad, but something tells me if you were to go to someplace else, you might be able to find a lot better line than plus 600, and in which case might be worth a little bit of a sprinkle. Yeah, that's the only one that's sticking out though on the template here.
Sub, yeah, I mean, I can get behind maybe a sub plus 800, plus 900, even on some of these other books. Like you said, Michel has been sub 4 times. Pereira, he has a decent amount of subs, actually. He's a BJJ black belt. But the problem for me is I just don't really trust Pereira to wrestle. But maybe he does. Maybe you're right. Maybe the pressure gets to him. Maybe he does go for takedowns. And if he does, maybe the sub is there.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, but this is what this template is supposed to do, Brady. It's supposed to kind of just identify the underpriced bets. And what it's all supposed to do is when you have kind of like one of those obvious reads, like, oh, I like Despaigne round 1. It's going to tell you, yeah, so does everybody else. And here's why it's so expensive. So, this is, like I said, this is a very valuable pricing tool. It's not the be all and end all of how you're going to select bets, but it will tell you sometimes it'll take something that you weren't thinking of and it'll show you. I think we're going to see it in a couple of fights. Yeah. Oh, wow, that's really, really mispriced according to where it should be priced. And then you think to yourself, well, wait a second, is that an actual win condition? And then sometimes you might say to yourself, you know what? Yeah, it is. It'll help you think through some scenarios that maybe you didn't see with your eyes the first time, but the data will help you see. And Tristan is asking if this is going to be on my channel now. I'm going to be doing a show probability for people that are on the Patreon getting these stats, but it's still, these spreadsheets still need to be kind of cleaned up a little bit before it's something I can actually start selling to people. But we're going to be looking to do a Patreon-only show for people that want access to these analytics to make themselves better bettors. And, Brady and I would like to bring this back, but, like for people that support our work. So it would be for Patreon members.
Yep. This information's so freaking valuable, man. I mean, the amount of time you put into all this stuff, and yeah, I love it. I love how it looks. I love the new look, and yeah, and it looks great to me. You said you need to work on a couple things for it, or
Yeah, there's a couple of little coding errors that I got to
coding error?
clean
Okay.
up. Like for instance, if you look right here, Brady, for instance, you see that 0 of 7 fights for Oleksiejczuk ended in submission. He's won by submission 0 of 7 times, and his opponent is never lost by submission. So 0 of 9 total, but it's calculating it as 66%. So there's something in the coding that's not that's screwing this up. So I've got to clean that up. A couple of other conditional formatting things before it's actually ready to go. But once it is ready to go, this is how the stats are going to come to you guys. And we're going to have a program every week that will allow us to kind of not just, so you're not just looking at a spreadsheet. You have somebody kind of interpreting where the value is for you here, and you can make your own decisions as well.
Yep, 100%. Good stuff. All right, Weezy, we'll move on to the next fight then. Yeah, some of these fights are pretty interesting. We got Kyler Phillips going against Pedro Munhoz. We got Kyler Phillips only minus 204 now. Pedro Munhoz plus 174. We got the over-under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 minus 300. The under 2.5 plus 240. The fight goes minus 260. The fight doesn't go plus 200. And I think a lot of that has to do with just the insane amount of durability of Pedro Munhoz. So, Weezy, I think this fight probably goes to decision. Can we find any value on this one?
Yeah, if you're willing to say that that you think this fight is going to finish inside the distance, you'll find value because it's a Pedro Munhoz fight. So the one thing you have to remember what Pedro Munhoz is, yeah, the dude is very, very durable, and probably nobody is ever going to finish him unless he moves up to heavyweight and fights like, Jailton or something like that. But I don't think he's going to do that. So, but Pedro Munhoz finishes fights, Brady. You get caught in that guillotine, he can finish you. You get caught with that big right hand of his, he can absolutely finish you. And the way that he mirrors stances, and if you go southpaw, he'll go southpaw. If you go orthodox, he'll go orthodox. And that always sets up that calf kick of his that he uses to kind of close range. So, and then with a guy like Phillips, this guy is so athletic, so explosive that you can probably talk yourself into the fact that maybe if somebody ever does finish, a guy like Pedro Munhoz, it'll be a guy like Kyler Phillips, who they call the Matrix, who could probably land something crazy like that Joaquin Buckley spinning kick, like that's the kind of shit that Kyler can land. So if you're willing to fade the narrative, Brady, and say, yeah, I think that there could be a finish in this fight, you're going to see a lot of value in those unders. Plus 380 at 20%. 30% of bantamweight fights go under. 7 of 9 Pedro Munhoz fights have went under 1.5 rounds. So, you got a 32% combined out of 25 fights that have finished under 1.5 rounds for these guys. So you're seeing value here. You see a lot of green right here. You're seeing a lot of green right here. But somebody's got to get a finish for that to cash. And when you look at the betting template here, I placed a 1-unit bet on Kyler Phillips to win by decision. Now it's minus 140 on Bet Online, but I got it at minus 107 on Bet Rivers. And when you look at that line, now we're on to something, right? Because 52% of fights finish by decision. 52% is the implied probability of the line. 50% of the fights go to decision. Kyler's got a 2/3 win probability. So when we adjust that, it's 33%. But Kyler Phillips wins by decision 3 of 5 times. And Munhoz's losses in the UFC, all 7 of them are by decision. So 10 of 12 or 83.33%. That's the win condition for Kyler Phillips. It's literally 83.33% by decision, 16.67% inside the distance. So when we adjust that 83.33% by the implied probability of 67, we're getting about a 56% price that where the line should be priced, Brady. but we're only paying 51. So I like Kyler Phillips by decision. If you can find it close to evens there at minus 107, it's a bet that not only makes sense stylistically because you're playing into that fact that Kyler is a favorite and that Pedro Munhoz is incredibly durable, but it's also not overpriced for what the stats tell us the win condition was in the past for Phillips and the loss condition was for Munhoz.
Yep, I agree 100%. I think that's probably the most likely outcome. And you're getting a good price on Bet Rivers right now compared to some other books. I see minus 140s out there. So yeah, minus 107. Yeah, minus 107 for that decision prop. I was also looking at the Munhoz finish only, but I think they're kind of, I think it was like minus 115 for that finish only, which it is what it is.
Yeah, because they're telling you, oh, yeah, he's got about a 53% chance of finishing this fight, but they're telling you that, or if there is a finish, 53%, but they're telling you he's only got a 36.5% chance of winning the fight when you look at his money line here. So that's the problem, you know. But yeah, I mean, Munhoz finish only is never a bad option because usually at worst, you're just going to get your money back.
Yeah, and I think that's probably what happens. I think it's probably a push. But yeah, that decision look at about even money, I think is solid as well. All right.
Absolutely.
We'll move on to another fight that is really heavily favored to go to decision. We got Mateusz Gamrot, the second biggest favorite on the card, maybe by fight time, might be the biggest favorite because the money's pouring in on him. He's now minus 455. Rafael dos Anjos is plus 355. The over-under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 minus 300. The under 2.5 plus 240. The fight goes the distance minus 275. The fight doesn't go the distance plus 215. I mean, I think this goes to decision, but holy crap. Gamrot by decision on Bet Rivers right now is minus 165. On Bet Online, looks like it's a little bit better actually at minus 145. I don't know, man. I think it's Gamrot by decision, but I think they're kind of all over it. Anything sticking out here?
Not much because, you know, where the value is on violence, and God, it's hard to picture, you know, Gamrot is going to be a submission finisher mostly in the UFC. He knocked out Scott Holtzman, but you know, he's not really a knockout guy. And Dos Anjos, the guy's never been submitted ever. And I mean, he's got like how many, like 77 professional fights. You know, he turned pro in 1982. You know, I mean, this guy has been around forever, and he's literally never been submitted, and he's got a ton of losses. So, you know, if Gamrot's not submitting him, you know, then he's got to knock him out. So what it's doing is you can see it right here in this row of red. You know, the fight goes to decision is priced at 73%, but only 48% of lightweight fights go to decision. So that's how sure the bookies are that this is going to go over, and they're going to make you pay up if you want to bet these overs. So they're trying to force you to be a contrarian here. And you know what? Fight doesn't start round 3 at plus 340, Brady. That's about a 23% price. 43% of lightweight fights do not start round 3. That's 20% better than the price. And for Gamrot, we got 3 of 6, and for Dos Anjos, it's 3 of 9 in their 3-round fights. So 40% of their 3-round fights don't start round 3. You're only paying 22% on the line. So that's a very fat plus money number, and there's been some injuries in these fights, you know. So that's another thing that's kind of like pushing those under numbers a little bit higher than what they should be, and the bookies get that, and they're shading towards the over. So if you like violence, if you think that's a possibility here, yeah, they're going to pay you handsomely to try those lines, but chances are this thing goes to decision.
Yeah, I mean, it could be I think it might have to be like an injury, or maybe that RDA is 39 years old. Maybe the wheels are starting to fall off. Maybe it looks like crap. I don't know. But yeah, I think it probably does go to decision. But you know, like I said, they're all over it. Anything sticking out from like a decision prop maybe for Gamrot? Is it probably? I see minus 145 right now.
Yeah, minus 145. That's a 59% implied probability on that line. 48% of lightweight fights go to decision. 1 of 4 wins in the UFC for 3-round fights are by decision. It's 2 of 2 losses for RDA. So that's 3 of 7. And for some reason, that's calculating at 50%. Why the fuck is 3 of... there's still problems here, Brady. There's still coding errors. I don't know why that is. Everything else is adding up correctly here. But yeah, 3 of 7, and then you multiply that by 0.82. It's going to get you down to 35%. Yeah, it's overpriced, man.
Yeah,
These lines are overpriced. It's really trying to get you to take that inside the distance at plus 260. Those are extremely underpriced. KO is extremely underpriced because, we've had those injury wins for Gamrot, so those were considered KO wins. So he's got 2 knockout wins, so that's a problem. It's skewing some of those finish numbers higher than where they're supposed to be, and the bookies are onto it. So even though it shows value on the violence props here, I don't think Gamrot's getting them out of there.
Yeah, and that's a lot to lay on a decision. I remember last week, Bosharat by decision was like minus 160. But yeah, I think Gamrot probably wins by decision, but it's not a lot of meat on the bone, I'd say. So I think we can move on to the next fight. We got Maycee Barber going against Katlyn Chookagian. We got Barber minus 200, Chookagian plus 170. The over-under set at 2.5 rounds. You guessed it. It is very juiced to the over, minus 350 over 2.5. The under 2.5 is plus 275. The fight goes the distance, minus 325. The fight doesn't go to the distance, is plus 250. And this one actually interests me, Weezy. So, Barber might be live for a finish here. I know you don't like to look into the interviews and the narratives, but there were a ton of concerns with the Katlyn Chookagian interviews this week, and I don't want to get into it, but let's just say there's been some terrible stuff going on with her, and she probably shouldn't be taking this fight. And then Maycee Barber was talking about how she's getting a finish. She's very confident she's getting a finish. I do think this goes to decision more often than not. I think it's a close fight more often than not, but when you're giving me prices like these, when you're giving me a fight doesn't go at plus 250, when you're giving me a Barber inside the distance at almost plus 300, it kind of interests me a little bit. Barber KO plus 480. Weezy, can we find any value on another fight that is heavily favored to go the distance?
Yeah, I don't think so, man. I don't want to count on a finish in a women's strawweight fight.
I think it's flyweight, right?
I'm sorry. Yeah, a flyweight fight, 125. It's hard. It's hard to do that because, even though Barber is a finisher and 4 of her 10 fights have finished inside the distance that were scheduled for 3 rounds in the UFC, for Cerminara, it's only 1 of 15. So her style is very clearly one that, is going to be going to decision more times than not. The only time that she did get finished were those body shots by Jessica Andrade that absolutely just melted her. But even that was right at the end of the round. I mean, there was less than 10 seconds left in the round, I think, when she got stopped. So I do not want to bet violence in a Katlyn Chookagian fight. It's just not something that I feel like is long-term going to win you money. And, plus 250 is fairly attractive, but they could do a lot better, in my opinion. But, the narratives, Katlyn, several miscarriages over the last year. And yeah, that's something, the mental toll of something like that. I don't know how that affects her. So, of course, I found that out about a half an hour after I placed a half unit bet on Katlyn Chookagian to win by decision. So might already be dead. I think it might already be dead.
Maybe. I was looking at I know me and you were both waiting for the finish only for Barber, and it's minus 400, which that seems about right, honestly.
Yep, that's for sure. It's right where it should be. There's no way you're taking, if you're a bookie, you're trying to hang an attractive number. Katlyn Chookagian, 11 UFC wins, not one of them was a finish.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can
100%.
find anything on the betting template here. It shows green here in sub, but that's because my shit isn't calculating properly. It kind of likes Cerminara inside the distance, which isn't going to happen. 13. Yeah, 13. That's crazy, but she got some finishes on the regional scene here, so that's why it's showing that.
Maybe Maycee hurts herself like she did in the Roxanne fight. You never know.
Yeah, and Maycee Barber by sub at plus 1100, and now there's really nothing that's sticking out here.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Chukagin's never been subbed, but she has been knocked out. It says twice. Who else did knock out Katlyn? Let me see. Andrade and Valentina.
Oh, that's right, Valentina. Yeah, that'll happen.
That'll certainly happen. That'll certainly
Valentina
happen.
will finish you. Yes. But yeah, this one's tough because it's one of those things where Katlyn's 100% decision rate, and Maycee's one of the stronger finishers in the flyweight division. So of course they're going to overprice inside the distance and finish only for Barber, and they're going to overprice Chukagian decision. But I got that Chukagian decision at 260, and it's showing 215 on Bet Online. So at 260, it's a lot better because it's literally 100%.
Yes.
Look at that. 11 of 11 there for Cerminara, 2 of 2 for Barber. She's never been finished. So 13 fights, and they were all settled in Cerminara wins and Barber losses by decision. So getting a plus 170 money line at plus 260 by decision was something that I couldn't pass up. So I took the shot.
Right. I mean, that's her win condition. So you're basically just bet a plus 260 Katlyn Chukagian is how I see it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I took that bet. Now I just got to hope that what she was saying in the interview, that she really is ready to fight, but she might not be. So I mean, like I said, it might already be dead. OnlyFans saying, yeah, it might already be dead and miscarriage in the same sense. But even though that's a rough comment, Brady,
that is a rough
that's a rough one. But if they want to sponsor probability, Brady, if it's on OnlyFans, and we were saying last night on Just the Tip, hey man, I could be on OnlyFans. I do tasteful nudes, and I've got great statistics that I can sell to MMA bettors. So I think it's a match made in heaven. OnlyFans, what's your Twitter? I'll follow you on Twitter, and then that way you can get to me and talk about sponsoring probability on OnlyFans. It would be cool.
Yeah, I mean, if the price is right.
The bankroll is infinite. OnlyFans Sportsbook coming soon. Not COMING, my friend. The other kind.
If the price is right, why not? If the price is right, why not? So
absolutely.
Weezy, let's move on to the featured prelim, which I think is a big step up from last week's featured prelim when they were, for some reason, featuring Eric Anders and Jamie Pickett. I'm not sure why, but they were featuring them. But this week, we have a very good featured prelim. Jailton Almeida, Curtis Blaydes. The fight is lined about a pick'em, which on these closer fights, we're going to see that there's a lot more value in some of these props. Like, for example, Almabaev, massive favorite. His sub prop sucks. Whereas this fight, we're gonna see some good props here, I think. So we have the over under set at 1.5 rounds, the over 1.5 minus 145, the under 1.5 plus 115. The fight goes the distance is plus 175. The fight doesn't go the distance is minus 215. Wheezy, what is sticking out for this fight here?
In terms of the over unders here. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. I guess it really depends on, what your stylistic read of the fight is. But right now, the fight starts round 2 at minus 245 is actually looking pretty good because Blaydes has never had a fight finish in round 1, which I think is interesting. But
what about the Pavlovich fight?
Oh, that was a 5-round fight.
Oh, okay.
So like this sheet, what it does, because it's a 3-round fight, it's only going to take the 3-round results from the UFC. So right. If this were a 5-round fight, we would set it into a new template, and then it would show the 5-round analytics and the 5-round fights for each fighter. But this is a 3-round fight, so all 10 of Blaydes' 3-round fights have went to round 2. But it's Almeida, right? I like the unders here, Brady. They're not overpriced either, right? Fight doesn't start round 3 at minus 132. Very fairly priced considering 9 of 14 or 64.5% of their fights have not went to round 3, and you're only paying 57% on the line. It's only overpriced by about 3%. So that you're just paying vig in terms of the shading here, which is fine. So I lean violence here. Fight doesn't start round 3. Under 1.5, I think are the best looks here. because you're getting a little bit of plus money on that under 1.5, and that's 75% of Jailton's finish condition as well. So, and then on the bets, there was an interesting one sticking out here on the template. It really likes Jailton by KO, Brady. And the reason is like inside the distance is, a good bet at 175 because all of Jailton's finish wins are in 3-round fights are 100, he's got a 100% finish rate. Blaydes has been finishing in his only 3-round loss. So it's literally 100% of the win condition here. At plus 175, it's a very fairly priced bet. But the thing is, it's giving you sub at plus 235 there, but it's giving you KO at plus 600. So KO is less than half the price of the sub, but we can see that KO is how Jailton has finished half of his fights, and that's how Blaydes has been finished as well. So it might be a ground and pound KO, and that's the thing. A guy like Jailton, he'll just kind of switch back and forth. Sometimes he'll feel like pounding your head through the canvas. Sometimes he'll feel like snatching up the RNC. And then sometimes you feel like going to the Brazilian steakhouse with a plus 3,000 fight goes to decision ticket in his pocket because he actually meant for that Derek Lewis fight to go the full 25. You heard it here first. That was Jailton Almeida saying, oh, fight doesn't go to decision at minus 10,000? I could take this guy down 10 seconds in every round and just stay on top and do nothing, cruise that whole way. I'll have some of my buddies put some money on Jailton Almeida to win by decision, and we'll all have a party afterwards. So Jailton Almeida, I think he shaves ass here, but what this is telling us, Brady, is that KO prop at plus 600 seriously underpriced in terms of value when you compare it to the sub at plus 235.
Yeah, that KO is interesting. Is that's on Bet Online?
So all of these lines were on Bet Online.
Okay,
that's where I get them from. But when they'll open up on other books, we'll get even better prices, and some of these will look even better.
So it's plus 600 on Bet Online, you said?
That's what I had it at earlier.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Believe it or not, on FanDuel it's only plus 470, and on Bet Rivers it's only plus 420. So it looks like Bet Online is hanging the best line by a mile, which is not like Bet Online.
Yeah, let's just make sure that I wasn't stoned.
No, I think you're right.
Yeah. Jailton by KO plus 600 right there. There we go, man. That's a big fat number. I like it.
You know what my favorite spot is? And you mentioned it. I think the fight won't start round 3 it's on FanDuel Sportsbook minus 130. I mean, Jailton Almeida's been to round 3 only twice in 22 fights. 20 times this guy has had fights finish in the first 2 rounds. And if Almeida did go out there and did not bet the decision prop and finish Lewis, I mean, we're probably seeing the fight doesn't go at what, minus 400 here at least. So I think there might be some recency bias baked into this line. I think Blaydes could knock out Almeida on the feet. And I think I'm with you. Like if Almeida gets on top of Blaydes, he can TKO him or sub him. So the fight won't start round 3. It's weird seeing that at minus 130 in an Almeida fight. I know he went the distance with Derek Lewis, but I kind of think that was an outlier because this guy is finishing early. This guy has 20 wins, and 18 of those wins come under 1.5 rounds. 18.
I know. Yeah, it's like I said, I think people are really mad at Jailton for not finishing Derek Lewis. And I think as a result of that, we're getting a severe discount on violence in this fight and on the Jailton's money line because, I would be worried if this was like his second heavyweight fight and I didn't know if he could, wrestle heavyweights. But this guy's out there picking up dudes like Derek Lewis like it's nothing. And these are the biggest heavyweights in the division. I mean, if you get your hands locked behind Parker Porter's ass, that's something that 70% of the population on the globe couldn't do on their best day. Their arms just aren't wide enough. You can only work with what God gives you, Brady. Not everybody was born 6'4", right? Some of these guys, you're going to have shorter arms. But this guy Almeida is just, he's wrestling phenomenally. And it doesn't matter whether it's at 205 or 265. He throws these guys around like they're a heavy bag.
Yeah. I'm not even sure Robelis Despaigne, who has an 87-inch reach, could wrap his arms around that ass of Parker Porter. I mean, it'd be close, I think.
I mean, that is a gigantic ass, ladies and gentlemen.
You had a question there in the chat from Inad.
Joining late, but thoughts on adding an additional function to adjust based on your breakdown. Example, 75% likelihood breaks in fighter A style and 25% fighter B style. Maybe that is the adjusted lines. The adjusted lines are just adjusting for the win probability of each fighter. So when we look at the betting template here, you'll see, for instance, that here the implied probability of the line, 41.67%. The benchmark for fights finishing inside the distance at heavyweight, 61%. But Curtis Blaydes' win probability is 51.69%. So we adjust that down to get that to 31%. And then we compare that against the implied probability. So, yeah, fighters' win stats, 4 of 8 for Curtis Blaydes are inside the distance, and Jailton's never lost. So that's 50%. We adjust that down by the win probability to get us to 25%, and we can then weigh that against the line. So yeah, what I'm adjusting with Enad is the win probability of each fighter, and we just take the money line here at -107, and then this cell converts that -107 into an implied probability. There are other ways that we can mess with this and add new analytics like you're talking about too, because it's not what I'm trying to do is just quantify the win condition for each fighter based on the prior performance, but then we've got to look also at the stylistic reads of the fight.
Yep, makes sense to me. All right, let's get to this main card. Phenomenal main card here. We're going to kick it off with the main card opener. Another close fight like the last one. We got Petr Yan going against Song Yadong. We got Petr Yan -118, Song Yadong -102. The over-under set at 2.5. The over 2.5 is completely juiced to -275. The under 2.5 is +215. The fight goes the distance, -250. The fight doesn't go the distance is +195. I mean, I think this fight probably goes to decision, but laying -275 and a Song Yadong over is a little bit terrifying. But yeah, both these guys super tough, super durable. Weezy, I see that some violence is potentially sticking out here.
Yeah, it really is, and I mean, I think the one thing that we really have to keep in mind is, yes, Petr Yan, very durable. Song Yadong, very durable. But both these guys are murderous power punchers. So, toughness goes a long, long way until you get touched that one time just right. And you see it sometimes. If you don't see the punch coming, you remember when Umar Nurmagomedov knocked out Hani Barcelos?
Mm-hmm.
If you saw that punch coming, it wouldn't have even affected you. It wouldn't have even hurt. But Barcelos, Nurmagomedov had just missed him with a huge right hand. He moved his head, and that left hook came from underneath. He never even saw it. It just touched his chin, and he was out before he hit the ground. This is a funny sport that we bet on here. And what the analytics are telling you here, Brady, is that, yeah, everybody and their brother knows that Song and Petr are durable. So they're betting overs, they're parlaying it, and they're just saying we're counting on the durability of these guys. But here's the problem. Jan's fights finish inside the distance 3 of 7 times in 3-round fights. For Song, it's 5 of 10. So when you add that up, it's 8 of 17 or 47%. You're only paying 34% on the line, and you're getting a fat plus money number. So you could root for violence here, and when you make that bet, Petr Yan is a murderous power puncher, as is Song Yadong. So anything can happen. And we even see Song got finished because of a cut. That cut, there's still scar tissue there. You never know. Maybe Petr takes him down and opens it up with an elbow, and the fight gets stopped. So yeah, the bookies are on to the overs here. I mean, like -670 for an over 1.5, -1,000 for a fight starts round 2. I mean, like, these guys hit hard. This is not a women's strawweight fight. These are 2 of the best bantamweights in the world, and they've got power. So yeah, man, if you want to take a shot, it's telling you that you can take a shot here. And I think it's an interesting play. But you'll be playing into the durability of both of these guys.
Yeah, it's probably finish or pass for me. I might just stay away from it, but I'll definitely not parlay that over because, like you said, both guys are durable. But both guys absolutely hit hard. Anything sticking out for some props? I see some solid colors there on the finish props.
It likes Petr Yan violence. It's telling you that Yeah, plus 390 for a Peter Yan finish prop is
That's
very
crazy.
underpriced.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this is Peter Yan. There were 300-pound men that were scared shitless of Peter Yan before the first Aljamain Sterling fight when he landed the illegal knee. You know, I mean, like this guy, people didn't want to get in the cage with him. Like when Sean O'Malley signed on the dotted line to fight Peter Yan. I mean, like you go on MMA Twitter that day, everybody's posting that picture of like the guys dancing with the coffin. You know that one where everybody got the coffin on their shoulder and they're like dancing and like they got some moves and shit and like that's Sean O'Malley and he beat him. He actually beat Peter Yan. So this could be a y'all must have forgot moment if you're playing either Song inside the distance, Song by KO, Peter Yan inside the distance, Peter Yan by KO. Yeah, man, those are bets that are underpriced according to the metrics, the benchmarks, and the win probabilities that we have available to us, Brady.
Yeah, and we know Jan's been kind of getting screwed by decisions lately, so maybe he goes out there and tries even harder to get that finish. Plus 425 on Bovada for that Jan finish. Song has been knocked out twice. One was like you said, a cut stoppage, and then the other time he got knocked out was before the UFC. And then Jan has never been knocked out, but he did get dropped by Sean O'Malley, I think.
Yeah, they traded knockdowns in that second round. Man, what a round that was! That was such a great fight.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, should be a fun fight there. So we have 4 fights left. Let's move on to this next one, Weezy. We have Jack Della Maddalena going against Gilbert Burns. We got Jack Della now minus 164, Gilbert Burns plus 144. The over-under set at 2.5 rounds. The over, or at 1.5 actually. Over 1.5 minus 220. Under 1.5 is plus 180. The fight goes is now plus 130. The fight doesn't go as minus 160. So it looks like money's coming in on the overs on the fight goes, which is weird because I see a lot of people on the violence this week. I'm one of those people, I guess. I haven't bet anything yet, but I was looking like the past month, FanDuel opened up a under 2.5. They set it at minus 112 like they do. And that was there for a while, and then it went to minus 122. I was looking at it, never got there. And I don't know if I'll get to violence here unless these lines keep coming down. But it's weird, Weezy. On some books, like we have minus 225 for the fight doesn't go to decision. And then best price is Bet Online at only minus 160. So a big disparity between a lot of these books for this fight.
Yeah, I just realized that for some reason I don't have the betting template in here. So let me just get that real quick. Cut and paste it into this thing. Or maybe it's already in there and I just mislabeled the tab. But, I'm getting old, Brady. It's all falling apart like a Chinese motorcycle. I don't know how I hold it all together. But all right, so there we go. There's the Gilbert Burns and Jack Della betting summary. And boy, it's starting to it likes that Jack Della by decision, man. It likes Jack Della by decision a lot. But as far as the prop template here, yeah, it likes that fight goes, man. Like I remember you were telling me that you like the under 2.5, and that makes a lot of stylistic sense. Striker versus grappler. We always talked about that on probability, Brady. You gotta love striker versus grappler for violence because somebody's always dangerous wherever the fight goes. And we know if Burns gets on top of Jack, he's gonna be very dangerous to finish this fight by submission. And we know that if Gilbert, who's not like this volume wrestler, Gilbert isn't going to go out there and attempt 10 takedowns on you. He doesn't have that in him. But if he tries takedowns and he's getting stuffed and he can't track down Jack's going to start pressuring him, going to start putting combinations together, going to start digging to that body. And, 2 things happen. You either shit your pants or you go down, or sometimes both. Yeah. But when that dude starts digging to your body, Brady, it is going to be a long night. So right now, that fight goes at plus 160 is a very interesting number because 2 of 6 Della fights have seen the scorecards, 9 of 18 for Burns, 11 of 24, 45% of a big sample size of 24 fights have seen the scorecards. We get an 11% discount when we compare that price of the line to the benchmark for the division. And these guys are going to decision 45% of the time, only 3.7% worse than what the division does as a whole. So there's some value there if you are of the read that this thing does see the scorecards. But it's a Della versus Burns fight, so I think I would rather play that under 2.5 at minus 137 than I would pay the fight goes at plus 160 stylistically.
The fight goes is now plus 130, so it has been hit. That fight goes
is plus 130. See, that's a lot more reasonable.
Yeah.
And you can always tell, man, because it'll tell you when something's underpriced. We're going to talk about the Holland Page fight. And when I saw those lines drop, I was like, whoa, they underpriced violence in this fight by a crazy amount. And I know, Mike, that Holland is a very durable dude, but it doesn't matter. If Page caves your skull in, you're going down, when he broke the man's skull, Cyborg, you get hit by something like that. Doesn't matter how durable you are, you're going down. So I could see just, on the data likes these overs, but it's you got to be very clear that stylistically, this is a striker versus grappler match, and both guys are elite in the area, whether they're a striker or a grappler. So I would have to lean towards the violence side here.
Yeah, I mean, I like it stylistically. It's just not something I'm running to the window for. Like, I don't know. The fight doesn't go minus 160 now. Maybe it'll continue to get better. I'm not so sure, but I see a lot of people on violence this week for it, which makes sense. Stylistically, grappler versus striker. Jack potential KO, Burns potential sub, but I don't know. Haven't touched anything in it yet. And then you said Jack by decision is kind of sticking out. Jack by decision plus 350.
Yes, plus 350. We know that that's a 22% implied probability. 50% of these fights go to decision. You adjust that down for the win probability of 62%. You're getting 31%, and you're only paying 22% on the line. So that's an 8.95% discount. 2 of 6 wins for Jack Della by decision. 3 of 4 losses for Gilbert Burns by decision. 5 of 10. That's 50%. Adjust that down by the win percentage. You get 31%, but you're only paying 22% on the line. So it really likes that decision prop at plus 350. I think that's a really good look. And don't forget, man, I mean, Burns went to war with Chimaev and wound up coming out the other end. A lot of people didn't think that fight would go to decision either.
I really didn't. That one.
Yeah, I didn't either. Yeah, I think I bet violence there and was like, what is happening?
Yeah, it's one of those where you're like, wow, that really went 15 minutes. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, if this fight went to decision, it wouldn't shock me. But stylistically, I think it does finish. It's just I'm not running to the window for these prices, to be honest. I'm not.
Yeah. It's just, it's just telling us, hey, take a look at, don't forget about me over here at plus 350 for decision. It's telling you, don't forget. And it likes the Burns decision too. When you're seeing something that's only overpriced by less than 1%, you got to remember how much vig there are in these lines, and sometimes when you get to these KO bets, the sub bets, the split decision bets, you might expect to see 20% vig in there. So if it's showing you that it's only 5% overpriced, you're getting pretty close right there. And that vig is something that you got to be very aware of. How much vig are you paying on some of these props? And for some of them, it is quite a bit. This tool will help you notice when you're paying entirely too much vig.
Yep, 100%. All right, Weezy, we have a couple more fights left. We have Kevin Holland going against Michael Page. We have Kevin Holland minus 132, Michael Page plus 112. The over-under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 minus 160. The under 2.5 is sitting at plus 130. The fight goes minus 145. The fight doesn't go is plus 115. This is a Kevin Holland fight, so typically I like to stay away. But is there anything sticking out here, Weezy?
Yeah, I mean, they're on to the violence props here. Benoit Saint-Denis by knockout is something that the template likes.
I thought we were talking about Holland, right?
Oh, my bad. All right. So Holland, in terms of these bets here, there is nothing really sticking out. But what I noticed was the over-unders, Brady. look at all that green on the left there, right?
Yeah.
And that's because Kevin Holland fights have finished inside the distance 11 of 16 times. And he's fighting Michael Venom Page. Michael Venom Page is a guy who's a very front-loaded fighter, right? I like the under 2.5. I like the fight doesn't go here. I even like the fight doesn't start round 2 at plus 450. That's an 18% implied probability, but 31% of Kevin Holland fights finish in round 1. And a lot higher percentage of that of Michael Page fights finish in round 1 because he's a very front-loaded guy. He's very explosive, very powerful, so he can finish fights early. Now, Page has only been finished once in his career, and Kevin Holland, while he's been finished a few times, one of them was because of a broken hand after round 4. A couple of them were submission losses to guys that, Michael Page isn't submitting a black belt in Holland. It's not his game. He's going to have to knock him out. So I think stylistically, people really like the overs here, and I get that. You got a very durable Holland, but you also got two guys that are extremely powerful here, and Page is a little bit of an unknown commodity. You look at some of these guys that he's fighting in Bellator, for every Paul Daly and for every, Douglas Lima that he fights, he's fighting these guys that are like 3-2. They're fitting him in some fights where it's like, why is he fighting this guy? And of course he knocks him out in the first round, so this is a step up in competition for him. And guess what? He's never faced anybody as long and as tall as Kevin Holland. So it's going to be interesting to see how Page deals with all this. But these violence props are underpriced, Brady, and both of these guys hit very hard. So could be a cheeky look. You got to be a little bit contrarian sometimes. If you're gonna find these underpriced bets, it's going to force you to be a little bit contrarian. But I don't think it's that contrarian to expect somebody to get knocked out in a Holland versus Page fight.
No, I mean, you're not wrong, but I can see it now. I bet the fight doesn't go, and Kevin Holland's in there messing around, smiling at him. They're giving each other high fives, and I'm just like, "Come on, let's go." My TV ends up in the Ohio River by the end of the night, but I'm with you. It's violence or pass. It's just I have a feeling. Even Michael Venom Page said he's probably going to be talking a lot with Holland. This could just be like a spring fest, but yeah,
it's going to be another Jose Cuervo commercial. Instead of Wonder Boy in Holland, it's gonna be Page in Holland.
Elijah once said Michael Venom Page said this is going to be an in-fight podcast. His words, not mine. The first in-fight podcast. That is hilarious.
Dude, did you see there was one fight Page and he was talking shit to his opponent, and his opponent flips him off. And then Page starts talking to him later on, and Murgliata stops the fight and takes a point from Michael Venom Page for talking shit. And I was like, that's not illegal. You absolutely can talk shit. How do you take a point for talking shit? That's not against the rules. Poking somebody in the eye is against the rules. Kicking somebody in the groin is against it. Grabbing the fence, telling a guy to fuck off that you're fighting with is not even bad form. It's natural. So I was blown away when I saw that, and I was thinking to myself, let's pray to Jah that Dan Murgliata is not reffing this fight, because I want to see these guys jawing. I want to see these guys talking, and and I think that somebody's going to land something big here.
I know Mark Goddard, like when people are talking, I know Mark Goddard doesn't like people talking crap. They're like, come on, let's fight. But you can't take a point. That's crazy.
You can't take a point. He took a point for shit talking. I was like, I didn't even know you could do that,
Wow.
So that was kind of wild. But yeah, man, if you are of the stylistic read that, somebody might get knocked out here, I'm telling you got to bet violence because they're underpricing it.
Yep, 100%. All right, Weezy, we got the co-main event. I cannot wait for this fight. We have Benoit Saint-Denis going against Dustin Poirier. We got Benoit Saint-Denis minus 205, Dustin Poirier plus 175. The over-under set at 1.5 rounds. The over 1.5 minus 225. The under 1.5 plus 185. The fight goes the distance plus 375. The fight doesn't go the distance minus 550. Interesting total there. Interesting that they set it at 1.5, because I think this probably does go over 1.5. I believe in the majority of Dustin Poirier 5-round fights, they do go over 1.5, but they seem to finish between the over 1.5 and like the under like 3.5, like in that range there. So I think the over 1.5 probably hits. You're laying a lot of juice. So yeah, anything really sticking out here, Wheezy?
Yeah, there's some nice sweet spots here for the under 3.5 and the under 2.5 because on Poirier fights, 9 of 11 5-round fights have finished under 3.5 rounds, Brady. Benoit Saint-Denis never been in a fourth round in his entire career. And as a matter of fact, he's seen the scorecards once, and that fight should have been stopped 7 different times in the second round. So, the under 3.5, the under 2.5 at these current prices is extremely bettable here. And it's a Saint Denis versus Poirier fight. These guys are both going to have moments. It's going to be back and forth probably. And the pace that Benoit sets right out of the gate is not a pace that either guy is going to be able to sustain for 17 and a half minutes. So under 3.5 rounds here is the best bet on the board for sure. And that's right now listed at minus 250. I think we can do a little bit better than that.
Yeah, I see a minus 205 on, at least I did on DraftKings.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't have even brought it up, right?
Maybe we can keep quiet and move on now. Just
a whisper bet.
Narc, shout out to Narco.
205. Yeah, shout out Narco Cop, the whisper bet, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody's favorite podcast. I love the Lambo plays. I love Tim and Narco.
Let's see if it's still there. Yes, it's still there, 205. And then the under 2.5 is at minus 115, which I think that's interesting too. I mean, it's a freaking Benoit Saint-Denis fight. Like, he's went over once, and that fight should have been stopped. I mean, it should have been stopped. I mean, there's not much else to say. All of his fights should have been finished under 1 or under 2.5.
Yeah, and Poirier's been under 2.5, 8 of 11 times in 5-round fights. So yeah, and then with Benoit it would be really hard to picture him going 12.5 minutes against anybody. So yeah, under 2.5 at minus 115, under 3.5 at minus 205. Those are definitely my favorite spots on this fight here. And let's see if we've got anything on the betting template that's sticking out here. O'Malley, Vera, Poirier, Saint-Denis. All right. Yeah, it likes decision, but the problem with this template for this one, Brady, is that this is a 5-round fight and this is coded for 3 rounds. So I don't think the template is going to be of a lot of help for us here because it's going to look to be underpricing these inside the distance props. But I mean, Dustin Poirier inside the distance at plus 250. That's not bad. This fight isn't going the distance, and he's plus 175 on the money line. So, I mean, you can get a much better price at 250. That's a difference of 8% of implied probability that you're paying down. So, that could be a good look if you're on the Poirier side. Just bet him to win inside the distance. But this is the best fight on the card.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the best fight for sure. I'm really looking forward to it. And yeah, think of violence as well. All right, Wheezy, we'll get into the main event. How much people we got watching? I think I saw like 70 something, which is pretty dang good for the big return.
75, and we just announced it this week. So I mean, thank you for all of us. Thank you to all of you that are joining us here for the return of probability. And like I said, these stats will be available in the Patreon, and Brady and I are looking to set up this Patreon and do this show weekly for you guys so that we can find these bets that stick out and not only provide the analytics to you guys so that you can look at it on your own, but provide a nice content package to go along with it so that you learn how to use it on your own and also learn how we kind of utilize these analytics to help us make better bets. We can all kind of work with this show together, Brady, to make all of us, better at shopping around for the best prices for the outcomes that we see happening stylistically.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, probability, I think, was probably my favorite show. Like we did it weekly, took a break. I missed it.
Yeah, and I tell you, when we stopped doing it, a lot of people were like, "When are you bringing probability back?" So, yeah. I'm glad that we got to do it this week, UFC 299, when our views are going to be way more than they are any other week. Brady, this is a great week to kind of show these products off and let people know that these are going to be available on the Patreon very soon.
Exactly. All right, Weezy, we got one more fight to talk about. We have the main event. We got Sean O'Malley going against Marlon Vera. We got Sean O'Malley minus 270. We got Marlon Vera sitting at plus 230. The over-under set at 4.5 rounds. The over 4.5 minus 155. The under 4.5 plus 125. Fight goes to decision minus 130. Fight doesn't go to decision is plus 100. I think on FanDuel Sportsbook, they opened up the fight goes to decision at like plus 195, which is crazy. They opened up O'Malley by decision at plus 380. I was sleeping. I think you were maybe even up at like 5 o'clock in the morning that day. But yeah, I don't know. I think, this fight probably goes to decision is what I'm thinking. Marlon Vera, very, very tough, very durable. Is anything really sticking out here to you?
I didn't put in the rest of the lines here. Can you read off some lines for me, man?
Yeah, which ones do you want?
I want all the over-unders here. So give me like the under 3.5 for this fight, the under 2.5, the under 1.5.
All right, under 3.5, plus 160.
Okay.
Over 3.5 is minus 210.
Minus 210. Okay. 2.5.
The under 2.5 is plus 225.
225. And what's the over?
310.
310. Okay. And the under 1.5?
Plus 375.
Plus 375. And the over is what? Minus 450?
Minus 600.
Whoa. Okay. Damn.
They like it. They like the over.
Yeah. What the hell is that? So let me see here. Over. Oh, it's so the over 2.5 is what? I'm sorry, I put 310. It's minus 310, right? Or is it?
Yeah, minus 310.
Minus 310. Yeah. So it's crazy here that plus 160 is exactly 38.46%, and that is the exact benchmark for 5-round fights in the welterweight division. And the under 2.5 is priced at 225. That's 30.77%. That happens to be the exact benchmark for the division. So these lines for violence right now are priced right at the divisional benchmarks for 5-round fights for bantamweights. So I tend to think that this thing finishes inside the distance one way or another. I could see Vera getting a late finish, and I could see kind of just like Vera not showing up and looking great. I got a feel, they're already talking about it. Aljamain was saying he's having a bad camp. I didn't know Marlon Vera over there in California was talking to Aljo on the East Coast, and that they were sharing, the details of their camp.
Yeah, Marlon said that Aljamain must have heard from like the janitor or something.
Yeah, right. I mean, I was gonna say, like, these guys aren't friends. They're both bantamweights in the top 5. So I don't know why he's saying he's hearing that, but yeah, these bets are just underpriced a little bit to violence, and I could see maybe Sean catching him with something. He's kind of like the guy that's supposed to be champion, in my opinion. But I think what's a lot more likely, Brady, is that Marlon's the one to finish Sean, because we've never seen Sean in a 4th round before. Marlon has tremendous durability and tremendous conditioning, so he could push a pace that winds up finishing this fight. I don't mind fight doesn't go at plus 100. Definitely not overpriced. And the under 1.5 or 4.5 at plus 125 is also a pretty good look.
Yeah, I think I'm probably staying away from the totals here. I could see this being like maybe a slow-paced fight, actually. From Marlon Vera starting a little bit slower, Sean O'Malley being a lot more cautious, like in like the Pedro Munhoz fight. I could see it getting extended a little bit. It's kind of a weird fight for the totals for me, just because it's hard to imagine. Marlon Vera is one of those guys. It's just hard to imagine him getting hurt. He's getting dropped, getting knocked out. I don't know.
It's hard to imagine him even getting scratched or leaving the fight with a bruise. I don't even know if I've seen that.
I haven't. I really haven't. I really haven't.
Yeah.
People in the chat saying those late props for Cheeto. Yeah, on Bet365 they have round 4 and round 5 both at 33-1.
Yeah, that's a good look, man. I mean, Marlon's got phenomenal conditioning and durability, and you start to see Sean O'Malley taking deep breaths in 2nd and 3rd rounds of fights. So I wonder how he's going to look in the 4th and the 5th, especially if Marlon starts pressuring him early.
Yeah, those are interesting. I might get there, I might not. I'm not sure, but anything sticking out for props or not really?
Yeah, not really on this one because, like I said, I still need to code a 5 round version of this template that kind of takes 5 round analytics into account and takes the fighter's 5 round performances into account. So, until I do that, uh, finding value in 5 round props is going to be a little bit difficult on this template, but we'll figure that out fairly soon. But you know, of course, O'Malley by decision, because Vera is so durable, I think that's a great look. And then the Vera finish only. I bet the Vera finish only, and I'll probably be on O'Malley by decision as well.
Yeah, that Vera finish only is -155 on Bet Online, but
Mm-hmm.
on FanDuel it's like +130. So there's a
And I
big
think I saw
difference.
plus 140 on DraftKings earlier.
Oh yeah, it was. It was on DraftKings, unless it moved. So yeah, there you go. All right, Wheezy. Well, we did it. I'll let you send us off. We're on your channel, so I'll go ahead and send us off here. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm glad you guys joined us. Hit that thumbs up. And then if you have any questions about this, feel free to post them in the comments of the video or reach out to me on Twitter at MMA Wheezy. Like I say, this is going to be available to the general public on Patreon for $25 a month. And it's going to be a content package as well. You're not just going to get the spreadsheets with all the information, but we're also going to do content weekly to go along with it. So we hope you guys will join us because, like I say, we're going to do it for free this week, but nobody has access to this kind of information. Brady, have you seen any kind of content like this anywhere on the web?
I haven't. I really haven't.
Yeah, I'm a madman. I really am. I mean, if you knew how much coding went into this shit, I mean, let me just bring this up. Let me show you this. This is my Prize Picks coding page, right? And this is just a lot of stuff that I've cut and pasted into this stuff. It's just all code. You see that? It's just a bunch of code, and there's been probably 3,000 cells that have been coded in order to create this model. And I mean, I could actually scroll like this for another 10 minutes. I'm not
Crazy.
joking. All that is code that's went into cells and calculated some of the data that we've been looking at today. So when I say that you're not going to find this shit anywhere, I really mean it, because I'd look for it, and I know that nobody else is out there crazy enough to put something like this together for purely to find MMA betting value. So check out the Patreon. Brady and I are going to be hammering this shit out, and we're going to be providing value for you guys. You support our work, we'll support your betting habits by giving you access to the best analytics. Let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC 299, best card of the year. Thank you guys for watching. Hit that thumbs up and subscribe on your way out. And if you have any questions about the Patreon, feel free to reach out. Good night, everybody, and good luck on all your bets.
See you.